Mute.
Welcome to another reading of Lord Mayhert, page 2862, still the chapter on the new life, and the year's 1950. Baidul would harness the white horse to the Tonga and drive it, but along the way the animal continued to cause trouble. Kaka would ride ahead in the Tonga as he had to get the food ready before the party arrived. Sometimes the horse started galloping before Kaka took his seat, Mara recalled, and he had to run after it quite a distance to catch up with it. Imagine that, trying to catch up with a horse. In Ratanagar, they also camped in a mango orchard. The women slept in the caravan at night, Baba in his tiny tent, and the men in the open under the trees. Prior to Baba's arrival, Ghani and Babadas had begged at the home of Ram Shastri, who they had been told was a generous spiritual personality. Shastri warmly received them and gave them an ample amount of supplies, so there was no need to beg anywhere else. Baba was pleased to hear about Shastri and said he would go himself the next morning to beg from his house. At 9 a.m. on Thursday, 5 January 1950, Baba set out for Shastri's home with Ghani. When introduced, Baba bowed down to Shastri and touched his feet. He asked for Bhiksha for only one person. Requested Baba to be seated while he brought the offering. After a few minutes, he returned with his daughter and alms of wheat flour, rice, dal, and gur, brown sugar. Baba again touched his feet and the feet of his daughter. Shastri presented Baba with two books he had written on spirituality. When Baba and Ghani returned, Baba sent Ghani back to give Shastri a copy of the New Life song. The other companions were then sent out for begging. Baba's name was not to be disclosed, and begging was also to be done cheerfully and lovingly. The givers were not to be under the impression that they had conferred any obligation upon the companions, and the receiver was to accept the alms after carefully noting the spontaneity with which it was given. In the evening, Shastri visited Baba at the campsite and presented him with two more of his publications. Baba introduced him to all, remarking, "He is a jewel of a man." Baba left Ratnagar at 9:30 on the morning of the 6th. After 5 miles, one of the wheels on the Tonga, drawn by the white horse, broke. The horse was not pulling the vehicle well, Mera related. He had been trained to pull the Tonga in Moradabad, but the horse was constantly resisting. With some effort, they covered a mile further and stayed again in a mango grove. There the Tonga was repaired, but it took until midnight to complete the work. Some companions brought back food in Bhiksha, but soon after, wild monkeys came and stole the sacks of food. The companions went without food that evening. They started walking at 8:25 the next morning. A man driving his cart on the road was impressed by the sight of the caravan and, without asking, gave some fresh sugar cane. The passers-by wondered about the cavalcade, and when they heard it was proceeding to Haridwar, they would bow in reverence. 9 miles were covered by foot that day. They halted for the night in a mango grove 1.5 miles from Nethaur. Baba announced his desire to stay in Najibabad for a few days, and from there to proceed by train to Dehradun. The next morning, Adi, Ghani, and Babadas were sent in advance by bus to locate a decent resting place at Najibabad, to contact persons who would be willing to give bhiksha during their stay there, and to arrange for someone to provide the train fare from there to Dehradun. Resuming the journey at 8 o'clock, Baba and the companions stopped in another mango orchard near Akbarabad at about 3 p.m. after walking 13 miles that day. Many people collected there and gazed upon the companions with respect. The procession was unique, age observed, and that was what interested and amazed people. Many walk on pilgrimages in India, but never had there been such a sight as this one. This caravan was the caravan of God, and something inexplicable drew people nearer for a closer look. They could not resist, for it was the caravan of the Avatar, who was now a gypsy and a beggar. On the way to Najibabad, Baba requested a glass of water. The women had neglected to fill Baba's flask that day, for he had not asked for water before then. Baba sent Erich to a man drawing water from a well not far off. Erich brought the water, and after touching Erich's feet, Baba drank it and sent Erich back with instructions to touch the feet of the man who had given it. In truth, Baba had stated he was thirsty only because of that man. He had to give him something inwardly, which he did through Erich. No one can understand this work, because it happens behind the veil. Only the giver, the possessor of the treasure of infinite knowledge and power, knows his work. The land of Uttar Pradesh in northern India thirsted for the Lord's sanctifying presence, and it received him with the utmost love. Although unaware of his identity, people were liberal and generous in giving alms, and there was not a place to which the companions went where they were driven away or came back empty-handed. On Monday, 9 January 1950, leaving the mango grove near Akbarabad, the group journeyed 8 miles and arrived in Najibabad. 38 miles had been covered on foot from Benares to Moradabad, and another 76 miles from there to Najibabad. Adi had arranged their stay in a garden where there was a platform. The spot was unkempt, but the women swept and cleaned it, and everyone liked the place. A few local women from town approached the women companions and requested that they not soil their hands in such work. They said there was a woman sweeper who would do it. But the women replied that they themselves would clean the spot. The local women were surprised, as such work was usually done by only the lowest class. But in the new life, Servants and laborers were not to be hired, and everything menial was to be done by the companions themselves. After the cleaning was over, they had lunch prepared as usual by Kaka. Adi had procured provisions for their stay from a cloth merchant named Makanlal Saraf and his wife, who were known to give food to sadhus and saints going to Haridwar. They had been contacted at their home after a Tonga driver gave Adi their address. When Adi went there and told the couple about their Haridwar plans, the couple claimed it would be their great good fortune to serve them, declaring, "We can give food in Bhiksha not for a few days, but for weeks." Therefore, the problem of food for 20 persons was solved. Now Adi had to arrange the train fare from Najibabad to Dehradun. Makhanlal told him of a jute merchant named Babu Ramesh Chandra, who he contacted. No sooner had the merchant heard about the pilgrimage to Haridwar than, without listening to more, he told his assistant to make all the arrangements for the journey. Adi made it clear that he could not accept money. But his object would be met if railway tickets were given for the group. So the merchant ordered his clerk to see to it. It was a matter of great speculation how, without any further questioning, everything was so easily settled. The third matter was to settle living accommodations. The third matter was to settle living accommodations. No suitable place could be found in accordance with Baba's wishes. Baba wanted the place to be on the outskirts of the city, with a well and a plain surrounding it, where the animals could be lodged. After much searching, Adi had managed to contact the owner of the garden where they were staying, and he willingly allowed them to use it. Thus, the three arrangements were completed without much difficulty. No one knew Baba's identity and simply accepted that the group was on pilgrimage to Haridwar. On the 10th, Baba brought a naked must whom Baba had contacted previously during one of his must trips. The must did not stay long or have anything to eat. Baba was not satisfied with the contact, so he went in the afternoon in a tonga with Baidul to contact him again. Baba bowed and touched the must's feet 3 times and was happy. Baidul brought another must the next day, to whom Baba bowed 8 times and fed him with his own hands. On the 11th, the last day of their stay, Mr. and Mrs. Makanlal brought cooked meals. Baba agreed to meet them, and Makanlal wept copiously before Baba. He did not even know Baba's name, but the love he felt within caused tears to flow. Baba was speaking by hand gestures, which Erich interpreted. Still, the man did not realize that Baba was keeping silence. The exact same thing happened with his wife, whom Baba saw on the women's side. Baba talked with her through gestures, but the women too had no idea Baba was silent. Mr. and Mrs. Makanlal served Baba and the companions beyond any normal measure of love. It is an extraordinary thing to serve someone without knowing who he is, but Meher Baba time and again inspired people to do so. Makan Lal invited Baba and the companions to his home for a meal, but Baba told him, "What you have done so far in Bhiksha is enough. It is recompense enough when I have accepted it with love." Kaka was extremely exhausted because of so much work day and night. He suffered a heart attack in Najibabad and became debilitated. The donkeys, Saku and Thaku, were sold at this time, and it was decided to proceed by train. It was because of his compassion for Kaka the companions now understood that Baba had settled on journeying by train. Baba assigned to Pendu, Don, Sadashiv, Baidul, and Alaba the duty of bringing the caravan, two tongas and a bullock cart from Najibabad to Manjri, Mafi, and Baba advised them to take the main road. But the five men failed to adhere to Baba's exact instructions, with a sorrowful result, as will be seen. On Thursday, 12 January 1950 at 4:30 a.m., Baba went to the railway station with the women and remaining companions to entrain for Dehradun. The jute merchant's assistant was present with the second class tickets. But considering the usual crowds in second class compartments, Baba asked Adi to arrange for the women to travel by first class. Adi requested this from the assistant, who immediately complied by buying four first class tickets. They left on the 6 o'clock train and reached Dehradun station around 10:30 that morning. A loquacious Sikh ex-army major named Singhji was traveling in the same compartment as Baba and the men. He had been a prisoner of war in Germany for 5 years. Along the way, he carried on a non-stop conversation, giving his opinions on current world affairs. He asked the men about Baba and his silence, and remarked that he had seen Baba previously in a train, perhaps on one of Baba's many must tours. Before the major got down at Laksar station, he insisted on ordering tea for all, and Baba permitted it. After tea, before leaving the compartment, Singhji suddenly placed his head at Baba's feet. Baba immediately stood up and returned the gesture by touching the man's feet. Marvin, can you unmute and begin reading? You're still muted. Oh, Marvin may be on another call, so I'll continue. Keki Desai was waiting to meet them at the Dehradun station. The, the Nalavalas, Elcha Mistry, and Burjor and Sheru Chacha, as Franey Nalavala's sister, were also there. But since it was Baba's strict order that no one should try to see him, they all waited outside the station. And here we have a side note. Uh, Elcha Mistry was Franey Nalavala's first cousin. When Baba was informed, he called them to the waiting room. Keki Desai had hinted to Keki Nalavala beforehand about Baba's arrival, and he accordingly informed Kaikobad, who had been residing at Mantri Mafi since the 1st of November. And another note here. Mantri Mafi was the village a few miles from Dehradun where Baba had arranged for Keki Desai to buy a plot of land to serve as headquarters for Baba's new life activities. In this way, Shatrughna Kumar, 38, who was also anxious to meet Baba, learned of his coming. Kumar's children would take Kaikobad his tea and food because, by Baba's orders, Kaikobad was not allowed to step out of the premises. One day he told Kumar, "You are very fortunate. You are serving God," and showed him Baba's picture. "This is God," he said. From that day on, without a break, Kumar began having dreams of Baba as a young man, thin, with a scraggly beard and a kerchief tied around his head. But at the time he did not know who it was. It was only years later, when he saw a photograph of Baba with the exact likeness, that he realized who had been appearing in his nightly dreams. And another footnote here. The photograph Kumar later saw of Mir Baba was taken at Shah's studio, Ahmednagar, at the beginning of 1927. Kumar would later joke with Kaikobad, saying, "You are my guru," as a guru introduces one to God, and you introduced me to Meher Baba. Kaikobad informed Kumar that Baba was coming to the railway station, and because he had done such good work for him, Baba perhaps would like to see him. So Kumar went. At the station, Baba had gone into the first class waiting room. Kumar opened the door, and though there were several other people around Baba, he saw only, quote, an enchanted, alluring figure, end quote, reclining on a bench. His heart declared that this was Mr. God, who had heard his prayer and freed him from jail 4 years before. The communist and atheist had in that very moment turned into a believer, and in that first gaze acknowledged and accepted Meher Baba as God in human form. He was to keep his head bowed at Baba's feet forever, for Kumar had found his Mr. God at last. Baba asked Keki Nalavala about their lunch, but as he had not been informed in this regard, food had not been arranged in Biksha. Kumar interjected, "If it be your pleasure, Baba, I can arrange it." "You will have to give the food as alms, Baba," Baba said. "Can you bring it within an hour?" Baba asked. I can prepare vegetable pulao in an hour and bring that, Kumar said. Baba agreed, and Kumar rushed out, jumped on his motorcycle, and drove full speed 4 miles to Manjri Mafi. He told his wife Subhadra to prepare pulao for 10 people within half an hour. Subhadra was a loving woman, innocent and open-hearted, and though it was late, she immediately started cooking. But Kumar was in such a rush, he made her nervous. He stayed in the kitchen with a watch in his hand, urging her to hurry. Be patient, Subhadra said, otherwise the rice will be spoiled. Turn up the stove, there's no time to wait, he snapped. Kumar was worried. Though Subhadra was cooking as fast as she could, she kept the rice boiling at an even temperature so as not to burn it. But Kumar was only thinking of being on time. The pulao was finally ready. Keeping it in a pot, Kumar raced to the station, making it back within the hour. Baba was very pleased, but Kumar found that there were more people with him. Burjor Chacha and others had come, and the total was now more than 20 people. Confused, Kumar was wondering how the food would feed so many, but he kept quiet. The pot was taken and kept on a table, and plates were taken out of the trunk. Baba began serving everyone. The more Baba dished out of uh, the more Baba dished out on every plate, the more anxious Kumar became. Take as much as you want. Eat your fill, Baba remarked. You may not get anything later. When all had been served and were satisfied, there was still pulao left in the pot. Kumar was amazed at this miracle. Since the well and the Manjri Mafi hut for Baba and his men were not ready, Baba and the companions stayed in Mrs. Pratt's bungalow at number 4 New Cantonment Road, Dehradun. Baba and the women occupied the main house, and the men stayed in 3 small rooms in the compound, meant for servants and stores. Toddy Singh, a prominent cream manufacturer in Aligarh, had found out about Baba from Kishan Singh and had a brief glimpse of Baba at Sarosh Motor Works at the time of the New Life meetings in August 1949. Later, he had also seen Baba in a dream in which he had been asked, "Would you serve me? Would you feed me and my companions?" The vivid dream made Toddy Singh restless. He did not know Baba's whereabouts and wondered how he should serve him. The one glance he had of Baba at Ahmednagar had changed him completely. He was so overcome by his love that he became almost like a must. He appeared absorbed, merged in Baba's love. His dream distressed him, and he longed somehow to obtain Baba's address. During this period, Kishan Singh wrote to him from Delhi that he should send 2 large tins of butter to Baba as a gift. He gave him Keki Nalawala's address in Dehradun, and Toddy was delighted at this fortunate turn of events. Toddy Singh and his son, Najraj, arrived in Dehradun on 11 January 1950 with the tins. He went to Nalavala's home, where Keki Desai told him Baba is to arrive tomorrow, but he is not seeing anyone. In the new life, he is not accepting anything from anyone either. Kindly leave, so as not to disturb him. Toddy Singh informed Desai about his dream and said adamantly, Baba has called me here to serve him. But Desai was equally insistent and requested that he leave. At last, Toddy Singh said, keep these tins of butter and send them to Baba. But Desai answered, I cannot interfere with Baba's conditions on anyone's behalf. I do not even know if Baba will see me or not. All right, said Toddy Singh. I am staying at a nearby dharamshala. If Baba meets you, kindly tell him about the tins and also tell him that I am eager to provide food for him. He left, and Keki Desai subsequently forgot all about it. But on the 12th, Baba asked Keki Desai, what is to be done about food during our stay at Manjri Mafi? We are only accepting food received as bhiksha. At this, Desai remembered Toddy Singh's offer, but as he himself could not introduce any old life subject into the conversation, he remained quiet. Baba asked, what are you thinking? Why don't you speak out? Because of your order, I hesitate to tell you, Keki said. Baba gave him permission, and Desai explained about Toddy Singh. Baba asked him to send for him, and Toddy Singh came at once. Marvin, are you ready to read? Awesome. Okay.
In Baba's presence, Toddy Singh was so overwhelmed, he was absolutely dumbfounded. Whatever question was put to him, he would answer, Baba Johnny, Baba knows. He was asked, how did you bring these two big tins of butter in the train? Answer, Baba Johnny. What do you want? But the only words Toddy could say were, Baba Johnny. Baba was highly amused, and he not only accepted the 2 tins of butter, but permitted Toddy Singh to provide him and the companions all their food as bhiksha. He was asked to begin from the 16th of January, and again when questioned, are you ready to give food as alms for 10 days from the 16th? All he could reply was, Baba Johnny. Baba laughed, and from that day, Toddy Singh was nicknamed Baba Johnny. Toddy Singh offered to bear the expenses of the food provided by Kumar until his return, and Baba allowed it. He returned to Aligarh, and on the 15th, with the required materials, he and his family came back to Dehradun, and from there went to Manjri Rafi. As in part of Mrs. Pratt's bungalow, an elderly British couple named Mr. and Mrs. Angelo were residing in a pitiable condition. They were destitute, without enough money to return to England. Baba lovingly helped them considerably through dawn, and it seemed as if Baba had especially stayed at Mrs. Pratt's to rescue this worthy couple. The Angelos were anxious to thank Baba and asked Keki Desai to request it. Baba agreed, which was quite unusual. On the day arranged for their meeting at Manjri Mafi, Baba wore a new white kafni. He asked Keki, how do I look? Keki responded, exactly like Christ. And Baba laughed. The Angelos were extremely gratified and touched by Baba's love. Since hot water was available at Mrs. Pratt's, Baba ordered the companions to take a half-hour bath in turns. There was no bathroom available, so a simple tent was pitched by their quarters. Most of the men hadn't had a proper bath since leaving Moradabad 2 weeks prior. They hadn't had a haircut in 3 months, and most had not bothered to shave. Ghani recorded in his diary, after the ordeal of the last 3 months of gypsy life, sleeping in the open in all sorts of filthy and dusty places, with only one indifferent meal in 24 hours, with all the rigors of the winter months to boot, the restful life in the servants' quarters of Mrs. Pratt's bungalow with good regular meals was a paradise indeed. Meals for Baba and the companions were being prepared at Kumar's home in Manjri Mafi by Kumar's mother, Jayanti, known as Mataji, his wife, and 2 or 3 other women of the village. Kumar would bring the lunch on his motorcycle at 11 o'clock, and Keki Desai would bring dinner at 6 in a Tonga. Scroll. The first day, Kumar's motorcycle stalled on the way, and every effort to restart it failed. At exactly 11 o'clock, it suddenly started, but he was 5 minutes late. Baba asked, "Why are you late?" Kumar told him the reason, and Baba remarked, "It's all right this time, but tomorrow I'll be on time." But the next day at the same spot, the motorcycle failed again, and Kumar was 5 minutes late. This strange occurrence continued each day for as long as Kumar was bringing food from Manjri Mafi to Baba's bungalow in Dehradun. He knew it was due to some inner working of Baba's. The motorcycle engine was in perfect order, but somehow at the same spot it would come to a sudden halt, and Kumar was always 5 minutes late. This, in fact, was Baba's doing, which turned Kumar, the tiger, into Mima, the lamb. He who had never bowed his head to another man was now eager to clean the carpets beneath his beloved's feet. Prior to Baba's arrival, Kumar was busy sinking a well at Manjri Mafi. To speed up the work, extra laborers had been hired. Keki Desai would also go to Manjri Mafi to inspect the progress of the work. He was sleeping at Nalavalas at the time, but had his meals and spent most of his day by Baba's bungalow. One day, Baba specifically instructed Keki Desai not to wait at Kumar's place, but to return soon with whatever dinner had been prepared. When he told Kumar about the order, he and his family explained that on that particular day, they had planned to make puris, which would take some time. Desai, foolishly, he admitted later, agreed to wait, and thereby broke Baba's order. While returning from Manjri Mafi each day, Keki would purchase bread from a local bakery for Baba. On this day, to make matters worse, the Tonga driver got lost, causing more of a delay. Meanwhile, at Mrs. Pratt's bungalow, Baba was repeatedly asking everyone about Keki Desai and why he had not returned. When he arrived, Baba had brought that day. Baba asked the reason for his delay. Desai told him the whole story. The food he had brought that day had been sent to the women, who first took out their share and then sent the rest for the men companions. When they started eating, Baba reappeared and again began lambasting Desai. Soft rice and plain dal was always sent for Baba twice a day, since he preferred only this. But, as fate would have it, on this day, Subhadra was in such a hurry, she had forgotten to put Baba's food in the basket. Baba scolded Desai, first for breaking his order by waiting at Kumar's, and then secondly for forgetting to bring his food. "Now I will have to remain hungry, while you all are nicely having your dinner," he fumed. Desai was so upset he could hardly eat. After Baba left, Nilu, who was sitting next to Keki, nudged him to finish his dinner and not to worry. After some time, Baba returned and instructed Desai that the next day he should not come to see him first as usual, but that he should go straight from Nalabala's house to Kumar's house. Tell them that the puri preparation was an unnecessary hardship for the women, Baba commented. Also, tell them that in their haste, they forgot to pack my food. But it is all right, I forgive them. When Desai returned to Nalavala's house that night at 10 o'clock, Baba sent Vishnu with the message that in the morning Desai should first see him and then go to Kumar's. Baba had also asked you to sleep well, added Vishnu, because he knows you are feeling very upset. Next morning, when Desai arrived, Baba instructed him, go to Kumar's house on a bicycle today to deliver the message, not in a tanga. Desai said, this will be my first time on a bicycle in 7 years. Baba ordered, from today, do not use a bicycle again for another 7 years. And off Keki cycled for Kumar's house. There had also been trouble at Mandri Mafi the previous evening. Instructing Subhadra to give Keki the food, Kumar had gone to watch the well workers. When he returned home at 7 in the evening, he found his wife agitated. He asked her what was the problem. Frightened, she tearfully disclosed that there had been a mistake in sending Baba's food. Kumar was so upset, he slapped his wife. Baba's dinner time was past, and if he sent the food now, he knew Baba would not eat it. Kumar was fretful the whole night, worried that Baba would be upset. He somehow managed to fall asleep, and in a dream, quote, Mr. God, end quote, appeared and said, don't worry, I have forgiven you. Kumar awoke startled. He had little faith in the dream, and the whole night tossed and turned from side to side. But just before dawn, Keki Desai rode up to his house on a bicycle and delivered Baba's message. Baba has sent me to you and wishes that you should not worry. He says he has forgiven you. After delivering this message, Desai left for Dehradun. Taken aback, Kumar wondered at God's mercy. Baba had specially sent Desai 5 miles just to set Kumar's mind at ease. When Kumar brought the food to Dehradun at 11 o'clock, Baba repeated, don't worry, I have forgiven you. But then he added, tell me, were you upset when your wife did not send my food? Yes, Baba, Kumar admitted. You were angry? Yes. Very angry? Perhaps. Did you beat her? 1 or 2 slaps. Pushing away the food, Baba gestured. Then I cannot take this food. Kumar implored Baba to have it, and Baba said, promise me you will never strike Subhadra again. Kumar willingly promised. From that day on, Kumar began addressing his Mr. God as Baba, and in later correspondence, he would always address him as beloved God. Chapter 20, Mandri Mafi. Picture Baba Dehradun, 1950. Kakobad had been staying on the Mandri Mafi property, purchased for Baba, since November 1949. But the well and the huts for the companions and an extension to the existing structure for the women were still not completed. On Sunday, 15 January 1950, Baba visited the property with Adi, Erich, Keki, Nalavala, and Keki Desai. On the way, he stopped at Kumar's house to see Kumar's mother, wife, and sister, and then met Kaikobad. He went also to the house of the Jamnadas, the Mahant, the head of a religious sect, in Manji Mafi village, where Baba and the companions were to stay until the Manji Mafi property was ready. On the way back to Mrs. Pratt's, Baba visited the homes of Keki Nalavala and Bujur Chacha. That same day, Baba disclosed 3 new plans to the companions. During these 3 months, you have seen my new life way, and all of you have shown how fit you are to be in the new life. So I and you all, keeping in sight these 3 months, should now decide about the 3 plans that I am going to place before you. You should all honestly and wholeheartedly consider these 3 plans in their entirety. They are of my own making, of my own free will and accord, and you must accept one of them as being my wish and order. By accepting one of these plans collectively or individually, you will still remain 100% my companions in the new life. These 3 plans make me free to live the new life in my own way, and yet keep you all 100% in the new life. By accepting one of these 3 plans, you will make me happy and free, and yet be my companions in the new life. The 3 plans are based on the labor phase. The other 3 plans of begging, gypsy, and Langoti life will be personally carried out by me alone, or with the companions staying with me as the new life companions. Therefore, the companions, by accepting one of these plans, particularly point A in the first plan, will be said to have gone through all 4 phases of the new life, as they will do the labor phase for me, and I will be said to have gone through the labor phase also. If the first plan is adopted, you can all either stay near me or away from me, without my interfering with your phase or letting you interfere with my phases. I will take 100% interest and guide and help you without in any way being bound. In these 3 plans, the 2 points of responsibility before God and no spiritual benefit stand good forever. Baba proceeded to outline the details of the 3 plans. In Plan 1, the men companions were to live together, earn their living, and subsist on their earnings. According to Plan 2, they could leave and lead the new life at their homes with freedom to get jobs or enter business. In Plan 3, the companions could choose to follow all the original conditions Baba had laid down. Baba ended by saying that copies of the plans would be given to all within a week, at which time further discussions would be held.
Thank you, Marvin. Eva, could you unmute and continue?
Certainly. Leaving Dehradun with the men and women companions, Baba shifted headquarters on the 16th to the house of Jamnadas, the Mahant. Keki Desai was instructed to return to Delhi at this time. Since Kaka was bedridden, Tati Singh's family had come the day before and prepared and sent the finest food. But Baba permitted the family to cook for only 4 days. On the 21st, he sent them back to Aligarh. Subhadra then cooked and sent the food, after which arrangements were made for the 4 women companions to do the cooking. Pendu, Dan, Sadashi, Baidul, and Aloba arrived with the caravan, Tongas and Bola cart on 20 January 1950. Baba's protective gaze had saved them from the jaws of death. Someone on the way had shown them a shortcut from Najib Badab to Dehradun. And disregarding Baba's advice to stay on the main road, they took it. At a wild and lonely place, while crossing a stream, the caravan's wheels got stuck and could not be pulled out of the mud. At a loss of what to do, Pendu suggested that Don should decide what should be done. Don advised chopping off tree branches and strewing them over the path. All concurred and set about it. The work was strenuous, and it was past evening by the time they had finished. No water was available, even for drinking. Cooking anything was out of the question. Don noticed some water in a hole, but it looked filthy. Nevertheless, he told Aloba to boil it for 15 minutes and then make tea. Aloba hurried through the task, and without listening properly, he prepared tea within 15 minutes. Desperately thirsty, they drank it anyway. After much endeavor, they were able to free the caravan from the morass, but it was now pitch dark in a jungle inhabited by tigers and bears. They proceeded in the darkness and luckily saw a forest guard's hut. The watchman was sleeping and had locked the door from inside. He was awakened and told they wanted to pass the night there. He agreed, but said it was quite dangerous for the animals to remain unprotected. The guard lit a lamp, and after tying the animals in a circle, the companions slept under the caravan, tanga, and bullock cart. As all three vehicles were full of baggage, the roar of tigers was heard occasionally. Lying on the ground in the freezing cold, they remembered Baba for protection. At dawn, they left the place and proceeded. At times, they were drenched in rain. Thus, passing through much hardship, they arrived in Manjiri Mafi after an 8-day journey. By not following Baba's original advice, they had to experience these severities, but they learned a lesson. Don showed the greatest courage, which brave-hearted men like Pendu and Baidul appreciated. The other companions also were impressed. Ghani noted in his diary the ordeals and experiences of Don and party's journey with carts, bullocks, tangas, and the latest caravan, coupled with the narrow, sandy, muddy, and uneven second-class narrow roads over a distance of a 24-mile climb to Hardwar, if recounted, would astound the listeners. The hardships were so strange, unbelievable, and unforeseen. For the type of man Don was, with his experience of hardships faced in crossing 1,500 miles of the Sahara Desert when he was 21, to say that the difficulties they went through were incredible impressed all concerned. Baba later stated that Don provided an example of love for him in the new life, worthy of being followed. Kakabaria, then recovering from a heart attack, was advised by Don and Nilu to rest. But in the intense activity of the preparations of the next phase of the new life, the companions could not nurse him properly. Baba, of course, was attentive to him, but Kaka was still despondent. One day, in a dejected mood, Kaka suddenly left. He had not a cent with him, but he began heading toward Rishikesh. On the way, he asked a stranger for directions. The man was kind and walked by his side to point out the way. Next reader. Until they cry
Thank you.
7 years later.
Thank you, Luba. One day, in a dejected mood, Kaka suddenly left. He had not a cent with him, but he began heading toward Rishikesh. On the way, he asked a stranger for directions. The man was kind and walked by his side to point out the way. They passed a small restaurant where the man asked Kaka to have tea. But how could Kaka order it with no money? He politely declined and went on. He drank water by a stream and, after a 6-mile walk, sat down exhausted. In a desperate state, he thought over the new life conditions and his oath. His despairing thoughts finally forced him to retrace his steps, and he returned to Mantri Mafi that evening. When Baba saw him, he remarked, "Where will you go? You cannot go. And you cannot die. You still have a long time to live." Baba's remarks back in good spirits, and Nilu began treating him more conscientiously. The 3 plans were typed and copies distributed to each man on 21 January 1950. 2 days later, the plans were discussed at a meeting that continued the next day. 4 men, Ghani, Adi Sr., Anna 104, and Babadas, chose to continue the new life from their homes, following the second plan. They left for their respective places on the 25th. Ghani to Lonavala, Adi and Anna 104 to Ahmednagar, and Babadas to Nagpur. Before departing, Baba embraced each man. Adi had tears in his eyes. We have a footnote here. Years later, Adi Sr. recounted that the new life was, quote, the most difficult, the most crushing time, end quote, of his life with Meher Baba. Following the third plan, Alaba, Baidul, Erich, Murli, Nilu, Pendu, Sadashiv, Vishnu, and the 4 women, Meramani, Meru, and Goher, were to remain with Baba in Mantri Mafi, living according to the original conditions of the new life. Following the second plan, Don was to stay in Dehradun, open a dispensary and work as a doctor there. Though Kaka and Gustaji were to remain with Baba, they chose to regain their old life freedom. Their maintenance was to be undertaken by Don. While leaving Anna 104 by mistake, Anna 104 by mistake carried off one of Gustaji's bundles, which angered Gustaji no end. Due to silence, he could not speak, but the next day he expressively indicated his perturbed state by using hand signs, which greatly amused Baba. As stated, Gustaji was now following Plan 1B, whereby he regained his old life habits and freedom. As in the old life, Gustaji would spend the entire day collecting pieces of paper, empty matchboxes, empty cigarette packets, burnt matches, rags, etc., to use as kindling. Since Gustaji was on silence, forbidden to read, and without any specific duty, passing the time was difficult. He would therefore keep himself occupied in collecting such rubbish. using it to fuel the fire to heat the bathwater. On 25 January, Baba urged those who had chosen the third plan of physically remaining with him and soul into this plan and work it out without doubts, suspicions, or hesitation. I will be very strict with you from March 1. Those who are careless about the conditions and who disobey orders will be sent back home. Vishnu was appointed by Baba as the manager of household affairs and given the duty of marketing for both the men and women companions. An amount was fixed to meet the companions' food expenses until the end of February. Once the amount was spent, Baba stated he would send all the companions out for begging. Pendu and Sadashiv were given the work of selling the tongas, animals, and bullock cart on Don's behalf. Don was in charge of the animals, but Baba was sending him to Bombay to bring Naja. She was being called to help the women cook their and Baba's food because Mani and Meru had fallen ill. So we'll stop here at the bottom of 2876. Let me stop the recording.